Welcome back to my channel, and today we'll be talking about the Bernie Mac show, and I literally just finished watching it, and I'm just gonna explain my opinions on the show. Number one is that I would like to point out the development of the show, and I like to say I honestly loved how all the characters developed and had their own personality. Like Bernie, he went from being this person who was I don't know how to explain it. His character softened up a little bit. He was the same old Bernie, but he was just a little bit softer. They kept him the same, but it just softened him and gave him more of a softened character. I don't know how you explain it. He had the same old rules, same personality, but it just added a little softness to him, you know? He was tough on them, but he did it out of love. He did it out of respect. He did it out of he wanted to see, his nieces and nephews to have a future and all that stuff. Because, in the first season, he was hard on them, and there wasn't really a softness to him. But as the season developed and you get to season 5, he's still hard on them, but they just, softened him a little bit. And then after that, you kind of see other parts to that is you see their relationship develop. In season 1, they had an okay relationship because I said, he was just meeting them. Of course he knew about them because he was helping, but it wasn't to how they were, how the show would go on. When he probably met them a couple times, maybe once or twice, maybe 3, who knows. But then after the show, you see the relationship grow because at this point, season 5, he's been taking care of them, and Wanda's been taking care of them for 5 years now. So of course you're gonna see more them build a bond. He starts building a father-daughter bond with Nessa, and he starts building a son bond with Jordan, and he also built a bond with, I cannot remember her character's name for the life of me. Brianna, that's her name. Started building a bond with Brianna. And one thing I never understood about the show was that, in season 1, they said he went to jail. The father for, what do you call it? Vanessa went to jail. But then in season 2, they said he left. So it's did he leave or did he go to jail? It can't be both. But they never really addressed that. And then after that, I would say the same thing with Wanda's character. Wanda, for example, she also developed I would say she became more disciplined when it came down to them, because I'm not gonna lie, she was she was more of trying to be their parent. Not parent, trying to be their friend more than their parent. But then as the season developed, she finally, disciplined them more, and she found her correct tool, a unique tool, because there was one episode when she was trying to use a belt to discipline them, but it ended up Jordan ended up running away from her and hitting his head into a wall, and then she kind of realized that wasn't a proper way to discipline. So then as the season, the episodes later, she found a way that would she would discipline them, and they would also listen. And then we got to meet Brianna's father, and he didn't know how to discipline them, so Bernie had to teach how to discipline him and all that. But one thing I never understood about the show was for the fact that they never ever for the life of them actually bothered to show who the mother was for Vanessa and for Jordan and for Brianna. I never understood why they never showed her, because they talked a lot about her. They talked about how she was on stuff, talked about how pretty she was, how she ruined her life, how she had so much potential, but they never actually showed her. I mean, they literally made two episodes dedicated to her, because Vanessa decides to run away, and she just says she wants to visit her mother because she misses her, and she doesn't even bother to show up. I just did never understood why they, or what was the point of them doing that if she was never gonna show up. Another thing they never talked about in the show is how they literally had one of the dudes in the show, I forgot what his name was, but he was like Bernie's friend, and they actually, I think they changed him. But honestly, I'm glad that they changed him because you can see his acting from like season 1, season 3, I think, because he's not in season 5, or I don't think he, yeah, like season 1 to season 3, maybe season 4, I don't know, but I'm just gonna say the earlier seasons, his acting was horrible. But the later as the seasons went by, I'm honestly happy they changed his character because his acting became more natural and more, you can actually picture yourself seeing like these group of like guys having a conversation with each other while they're doing the stuff that they're doing. And I'm just gonna say that. And on top of that, they only mention and show his daughter one time and never show them again. And then there was like one episode where he invited them to like the house so they could like speak Spanish, and they never showed up. And but honestly, I feel like they kind of missed a plot of that. They could have had another episode of them basically like, Brianna wants to learn Spanish, and they end up coming over dinner because they did an episode of that for Vanessa. So why didn't they have an episode of that for the other one? That's one thing I'll never understand. Also, the ending was honestly one of the most randomest endings I ever thought of and ever seen. I just did not understand. No, okay, I understood because to me it was like foreshadowing because Bernie also ends up dying in like real life and all that stuff because I think it was because like some surgery went wrong or some doctor mishap. I think it was some surgery went wrong. And in this episode, like what ends up happening is that like Brianna ends up putting tinfoil in the microwave, and then he ends up trying to take it out, and then he gets electrocuted, and then she's just like has a near death experience, and he's just like ends up trying to like he ends up really thinking about how much like how do I say how much time he has and how much his like nieces and nephews mean to him. And then I think it's like in the same episode, I'm not sure, but Vanessa is like scared of going to college and stuff like that. And then, that's like the whole episode, and she gets like high scores and stuff. But I feel like it deserved at least a sixth season to give it a proper ending. If it was me and I was the writer, how I would show it was that it would be everybody and they would be getting ready for graduation, for Vanessa's high school graduation. They would, it would be her finally graduating high school. She got into her dream college. And then at the end of the episode is just the family. And they're just like reminiscing about everything. As they basically have a dinner for Vanessa's like graduation, they basically end up like, just like reminiscing about everything, and they're just like talking and laughing and eating and just having a good time. And I feel like that's how the show should have ended because I feel like that's just how the show should have ended. It just makes more sense because it doesn't make any more sense to drag it on. Because the last episode to me, it was, how I say, I feel like it just needed a proper ending. If it just felt like it needed like a better ending and it just didn't feel like an end to an end, it felt like something that deserved a sixth season or a proper ending. I just did not like the fifth season, the ending to the fifth season. I just did not like it. I also feel like they could have like did more with like the crossover episodes. Like they could have done my wife and kids crossover episode. It would have made more sense to me because to me, I honestly feel like the show My Wife and Kids and Bernie Mac are like very similar, but at the same time they have different templates to each other. Like for example, Bernie Mac and Michael would both like bond over the fact that they're a head of household, and then there would be Jay and Wanda would actually be really good friends, and then the three kids would also be good friends because let's think about it. Vanessa and Claire would be really good friends, and then after that, oh my god, I can't remember the others' names. Brianna and Jordan, and then Junior and Katie, I think they would honestly be really good friends. And I feel like it would just made more sense as a crossover episode because let's think about it. How it could work is that we all know that, for example, LeBron James exists in that universe and LeBron James is famous. So obviously, if LeBron James exists in that universe, then Bernie Mac could exist in that universe too when you connect it that way. But this would only work up if the timelines of the show worked, like if they were around at the same time. If they weren't around at the same time, then it would not work. But it's just a theory. Another thing, I honestly feel like the show deserved to have more like episodes of them traveling together. I thought like the episode where they went to that pool place was cool, and when they went to the cabin, I don't know what it was, but my favorite episodes of them was when they were traveling. And also I really liked the episodes when they had Christmas together or they had Thanksgiving. Like, I absolutely love those episodes. It was so cute. I feel like they should have had more like those episodes, like more traveling episodes together. Like, I feel like they should have gone more places. Also, another thing from the show is I never understood why they wanted to add another addition onto the show, because the whole point of the show was just for Wanda and Bernie to raise the three kids, and then the show would have ended. But for some reason, they wanted to add another like baby on the show, and I'm just glad they didn't because to me it really never made any sense. But then again, it also shows you how developed the show was, because in the beginning, Wanda really didn't think Bernie could like do it because he didn't have like any experience, but at the same time it never really made any sense because for her to say that, because there's another episode and where that's a contradictory, because he said, because Bernie himself ends up saying I was like helping raising like the family kids. So Vanessa, when he like ends up like crashing her prom, and then the reason why he's so reluctant on her is because his mother is just like, he sees his sister and Vanessa and doesn't want her to repeat the same mistakes. So I feel like that's a contrary thing to what she was saying. But then again, her character does develop, and she becomes like a more disciplined parent, a more disciplined guardian, and her and the kids' relationship. And as for Bernie, like I said, he does add more soft. He does like get more softened a little bit in the show, but at the same time, they do keep his personality, and he's still sticking to his guns, and he's still disciplining the children. And one thing I did like about the show was that they made the show as realistic as possible, and they never really skipped a beat when it came down to episodes. Like, we met everybody's family. They had those like Christmas episodes, Thanksgiving episodes. They showed us their school life, their home life, his comedic life. They never really skipped a beat when it came to the show. The show is just very accurate for what it was. But then at the same time, the show is based off his comedicy. So meaning that all the stuff that he was putting in his like comedicy and everything was put into the actual show itself. So it makes sense on why everything is tied so perfectly together. And then on top of that, the kids of the character of the show do also develop. For example, Jordan, he becomes more of like he becomes lesser of a crybaby, and he actually learns to stand up and defend himself through Bernie, because during the whole show, Bernie did not want him to like get picked up on because he was like very a soft like kid, and he wanted him to learn how to fight for himself. And so he teaches him to do that. And the fifth season, he's like more grown up, and he can finally like defend himself, and he can finally like pick himself up. And as for Brianna's character, I would say that you can't really tell much for her character because she's only 10 during the fifth season. I feel like if she was older, you could have like more things to say about her personality. But I would say she has like a very fiery personality. But then again, you can't really say anything because she's like 10. So that's what I'd say. I guess her personality would be like very fiery, very dramatic. And then there's like Vanessa's personality. I would say she's more of a mashup of like a teenage girl, and at the same time, she is like, she developed into a more grounded, well rounded young lady. She's no longer, having as like much fights with like Uncle Bernie as she used to. And I would say, she's finding her own way. And she's like, at the same time, she's still giving like navigation from her aunt and uncle. And she, her character is basically charming, but in like a really pleasant and nice way. Her character seems like she's gonna go on to do good things.